And hello, movie lovers. And if you're wondering why my voice is the way it is, I actually have laryngitis. And you might think that I'm kind of crazy for doing a show when I have laryngitis. But don't worry, you're in good company because I actually have a guest that's going to help me out, though, too. I have Beth from me from Movie TV Podcast. We're going to be reviewing Grumpy Old Men. And my voice actually goes perfect with the setting for Grumpy Old Men. So it was actually perfect. So, without further ado, let's go on ahead. Let's get on with the show. I'm happy to have Beth here. Let's do this. And hello, Beth. How are you doing?
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back again. You know, if your voice goes out, I can just talk and talk and talk. I'll just talk for hours.
That's fine with me. Talk all you want. But tonight we're actually here to talk about a little Walter Matthau film, along with Jack Lemmon, and that movie is Grumpy Old Men. Now, I saw this movie in the movie theater when I was a kid. All the dirty jokes went over my head. All I remember was Walter Matthau changing the channel and not knowing why Jack Lemmon was actually watching the TV. I just thought that bit was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
And then I didn't realize the context behind why he was trying to win the lottery. And then also to the chemistry between the father and Jack Lemmon was fantastic.
Yeah.
In this film too. Mm-hmm. So that was also another thing. The dirty jokes went over my head as a kid. So
I got to tell you that last bit after, like when they started to run the credits, and Burgess Meredith, who played the grandpa, the dad, when he was making all those jokes, I thought that was the funniest part of the whole movie. He was so funny. I love Burgess Meredith. He was in, John, I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but one of my favorite movies from the 70s is a movie with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn called Foul Play. And Burgess Meredith plays Goldie Hawn's like crazy neighbor. And it's a delightful film. We should watch it and talk about it sometime. Okay. But he just steals every scene he's in. He's such a funny actor.
You see, I never saw that movie, so that'd be excellent for me to watch for the first time.
It's a really great film. It's kind of it's a comedy, but it's a little bit of a caper whodunit kind of thing. And I actually think it holds up pretty well. I saw it again a couple of years ago.
Okay. I'm going to have to give that a shot.
We'll do that in 2023.
Sounds good. When my voice is actually rested.
Oh, good. Yeah, right. by then, you'll be all new. Your voice will be brand new. I loved this film. I forgot how much I loved this film until I saw it. And I just really, the chemistry between Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau, I had forgotten too until I looked up on IMDb that they were in the Odd Couple movie.
Yep. Odd Couple 2.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever seen the movie. I saw the TV show, The Odd Couple, but I don't know if I've ever seen the movie. So maybe that might be another one we have to talk about together.
Okay, sounds good. We'll do a whole Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon team up type.
I would love it. That'd be fun.
All right, let's do it.
We'll do a series starting right now.
Oh, not right now. I can only consume so much stuff right now.
I'm just kidding.
I'm joking.
And then the delightful Daryl Hannah is also in this movie. She's not in it a lot, but she just always kind of brings light to a film.
And this was actually her last movie, believe it or not.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was actually her last movie that she actually did.
Wow. Did she retire? What did she end up doing?
I think she retired after this film.
Oh, she shouldn't have. I wish she hadn't.
Same here as well. And, this casting, the chemistry between everybody is just fantastic.
It is.
And I'm just going to get into the plot of it. It's about this guy named Jack Gustafsson, who's played by Jack Lemmon, and Max Goldman, who's also played by Walter Matthau. And they are two grudgingly neighbors who have been at each other's throats for years. The rivalry of the former friends intensifies when Ariel, played by Anne Margaret, comes along and provides a love interest for both of them. When Max finds out that John is experiencing family troubles and financial ruin, however, he steps in to help. The bond is further commented when John has health scare and Max makes the ultimate sacrifice for his friend. So, this is how I would describe it. Two older men who are good friends but get into confrontation.
Yeah, I think they're lifelong friends and sometimes frenemies and kind of enjoy their relationship together. I think they have fun like messing with each other, like the fish in the car bit.
Yes, we'll talk about that soon.
Oh yeah.
The opening, but let me just say this: the opening scene alone. You're seeing Jack Lemmon. He's waking up, and then you see this car pull up, and it's the IRS guy. And the IRS guy is a douchebag through the whole entire film.
Right. But
He's
we don't know who
heartless.
we don't know who he is yet though.
No, we don't know who he is, but we know this guy that Jack Lemmon actually owes this guy some money. That John owes him some money.
Right.
So he sneaks out of the house, and then Max like shoveling, and he comes around, and I'll let you go on ahead and add that.
Well, it's funny because he sneaks out of his house and he goes down his, what do you call that? I forget what you call that. Well, I guess he put like a ladder there so he could escape for whatever reason. And then he like runs into Max, kind of like, it almost seems like it was an accident, but I think he was actually going to like hide out at Max's house anyway, right? I mean, is that kind of the impression you got? And then they just kind of insult each other, which is kind of what they do throughout the whole film. But it's a really nice little setup because you're like, oh, but you can tell that there is actually, it's sort of a it's not like a I hate you rivalry. It's more of a you still my girl, but I'll forgive you, but I still hate you kind of friend. I guess frenemies is the best way to describe them.
Right. It's like I'll forgive, but I will never forget kind of
Right.
situation.
Right. Which ends up being kind of a weird, they have a weird conversation I had forgotten about where John tells Max like that. So John got the girl whenever this was 40 years prior, 50 years, who knows how long. And it sounds like Jack didn't have a terribly happy marriage with her from what he said though.
No, because he said Amy was great. He goes, "You were married to Amy. She was fantastic. But the other one, forget it, basically."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if you had gotten with her, then you wouldn't have been with Amy. And it just was kind of interesting. And then every time I thought they were talking, the Ariel would be on there, I kept thinking her name was Angel because there was so much. So it was like, I wish they'd given her a different name because I was like, oh, when I talk to John, I'm going to say Angel, not Ariel, because it's just, they talked about angels so much.
But you know what, though, I like, though? I like it whenever he goes over to the car and sees Max. That's like his refuge. Even though they can't stand each other, he knows that Max has his back. So he's over there just chatting like he's just a neighbor in the streets, seeing his friend. And then the IRS guy, the guy just comes over there, goes, "Yeah, have you seen John?"
I'm sorry, it was so funny. They're like, "John, no, we haven't seen him."
No, don't know anything about him.
Don't know anything about a John.
But Max, he's like, yeah, he's been going to those strip bars all the time, wasting his money over there.
And then the guy finally leaves and he doesn't realize that was John, so they must have never met before. But then Max is like, what's up with that? And he's like, oh, I'm going back home. But then is it the next scene where Ariel moves in, or is it kind of during the same time? I can't remember now, even though I just saw it yesterday.
I want to say it's the next day.
Yeah.
Because then you're introduced to John's daughter.
Oh, yes.
And you see the moving truck because John is trying to sell the piano. And she's like, "Why are you selling the piano, Dad?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just a piece of junk. It needs to be thrown away." He's just trying to collect money so that way they don't close on his house.
Yeah, and we know that he didn't really want to sell it because he had kind of played it. Just a few notes. He didn't play long, but it was enough that, he kind of sat down and did that. Probably, I don't know why, but I mean, it was, he didn't really want to sell that piano.
No, he didn't. He didn't want to sell the piano at all. And you can tell that he was heartbroken by it. And then you see another car pull up, and it's actually Ariel that's moving into this other house. But before that happens, I like how Max and John are over there talking to each other about people who died.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. was so funny when they would talk about somebody who died. How'd he die? How'd he die? And then that's the way to go. Oh, lucky bastard.
And he's like, this is how Max put it. He goes, well, you want to go out with a stroke because at least with a stroke, you're out and that's it. You don't want to die any other way.
It's just kind of funny because it just sort of sets the scene for like kind of where they are in their lives. Like at that point, talking about people who died.
Which I thought was a funny scene. And then you have Ariel that comes in, and then she just wrecks their whole entire world, basically.
Yeah, because they're both love at first sight with Ariel. Because she's kind of, how do you say, what's the word? She's almost like, her character is so, what is the word I'm looking for? Not ethereal, but she's got a lot of energy and light. And she's just very like,
she has that California kind of vibe to her,
right?
Basically,
and she kind of comes across a little bit ditzy, but she's not. She's not dumb. She's just, I don't know how to describe her because she's a professor, so she obviously has a lot of brains. I know that because I'm one, so I know you have to be smart. I'm just kidding. You really no, I'm just. I should like. Now you do have to know something about. You do have to know a little something, but she's very light of spirit, I would say.
Right. She's very much that light that John needs in his darkness.
Right.
That he doesn't even know that he needs at that time.
No.
He just sees her as a new person that moved into the town.
Right.
And he wants to get with her.
Right. Today we'd call them a little bit creepy because they're constantly watching her. But I mean,
you want to talk about creepy? Talk about John's son who watched Max's daughter. Well, where John's son watched John's daughter.
Yeah.
And Melanie. And she goes, yeah, don't pretend that I didn't know that was you looking up at me through the binoculars, like you didn't even like I didn't notice. Then he's like, "What? I thought I got lucky." He goes, "No, I left them open just for you."
Yeah, that was creepy. Wow. That had a little ick factor to it for sure. There was some stuff that may not have held up in the test of time, and that might have been one of the scenes.
Most definitely.
It was good. I mean, I thought even though it was kind of a weird, creepy scene, they still had pretty good chemistry. That was Kevin Pollak played what was his name? Jacob. I think it was Jacob. The son was Jacob. And Jacob obviously wasn't married or had been divorced because they never said anything about a family. So Melanie is having marital problems. She's thinking she's getting divorced. And so there's definitely chemistry between Jacob and Melanie when they're together.
Right.
When they come to visit.
And then, of course, Max is trying to put his son together with John's daughter.
Right.
And trying everything he can. And then also, too, I like how John's son comes over and he goes, "Hey, Dad, can you put this up in my yard?" He goes, "No, hold on 1 minute. It's showtime." And then he goes on ahead and starts playing around with the remote.
Yes.
Whenever John is looking at the lotto so he can win $1 billion, which I thought was hilarious.
Yes.
And changing the channel on him.
But John figured it out, which I actually forgot about, but because then he was like, I forget what he called him, whatever. They kept calling each other so many names, but that was a funny scene when he's like changing the channel from like across the yards, because I guess so the living room looked into each other's yards. So he was John's back was to Max's house, but the TV faced it, and that's how he was able to change the channel.
Like a sniper rifle. Like he was on because you saw how he was trying to aim it. So he was trying to use it like a sniper rifle.
Well, from that distance, you would have to aim pretty well. You'd have to be really, really accurate, I would think. I don't even know if that would be possible. But those old TVs, man, they had lives of their own, so it's possible.
It's kind of like having a Nokia phone, but yet you have a you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying. I think also the highlight of the scenes were out on the lake fishing, the ice fishing.
The ice fishing stuff I really liked because it makes me want to go out and ice fish with them.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to fish. I just want to sit in a hut watching a hockey game, and that's it. I just want to be out there.
Yeah, I mean, people have some pretty fancy setups in their ice fishing shanties. I was telling you before we went live that I live in Wisconsin, and we live not far from a lake, and we drive past it all the time. And once that ice is thick enough and you can get the shanties out and the trucks out and people can get out there, there's probably 20 or so shanties, and they stay out there all winter. So people have like their little setups. They have TV, they watch TV, they may not fish, they might just be drinking. We don't know what they're doing. They seem like they're having fun. There's some people that do it just in the open. That cannot be pleasant to be
No.
standing on ice and not have any shelter around you. I would not want to do that, but some people love fishing enough.
And these two do. Max winds up losing his favorite fishing rod, which is a duck fishing rod.
Right. That I love that scene where he loses it and it's gone, and he's like kind of at the end of the scene, he's got that hatchet and he's trying to break the ice to get his fishing pole. And it's like, oh, that must have taken a lot of energy. I mean, he obviously didn't break the ice to get it, but it was pretty funny. Everybody because it's like this little community out there, and they're like, everybody comes in, they're like, hi, 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 and someone's selling beer. What was her name? Punky is selling beer and cigarettes, and she's just out there doing her thing, and everybody else, and it's just a little community. It's like becomes a little city every day.
Exactly, and then you see. John and his father.
Yes. I guess I don't remember what they never gave him a name. I think they just called him Dad, right? Or Grandpa.
Actually, I think they did give him a name. Grandpa Gustavus.
Okay. So he was the grandpa. I just love, he's so funny. He had the best lines because he was just like, he had no filter and he was so funny.
He was. He's like, you need a mounter. He goes, why are you talking to me for? You need to go on ahead and mount her before somebody else does. Talking about Ariel. And then I like how Chuck winds up telling them, hey, why are you two goofing off with me or each other when there's a woman right across the street that you need to be talking to?
Right.
And I like how Max goes, oh, look at Don Juan. Don't want none.
Oh,
and
that's funny. And
he's right though.
Yeah, I like Chuck too because he kind of tried to get in on the game a little bit there too for a while.
Matter of fact, he actually did before Max and John both did.
He was there. I think wasn't it Thanksgiving night? I think she invited him over.
Right. He was supposed to go to the VFW.
Right.
And that's when Max said, oh, how was the turkey this year? He goes, fellas, the turkey was fantastic. And then Max goes, I bet it was. So tell us. And then he looks at him and goes, fellas, she made me feel like I was young again. Goes, that's it?
That was funny. It's like also Chuck, they would have seen your car out there. You didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that was funny. And it was like, geez, Ariel, how did you meet so many people? You only been in town for 2 days, although she did put that sauna up in her front yard.
Although, too, she also breaks into people's houses. She also steals people's mail.
That was weird. Like when she just broke into the house, she's like, hey, I need to see your bathroom. Okay.
And I like how he sends her to the opposite bathroom and not the bathroom that he would use.
Yes.
But she goes into the one that he always uses.
Yeah, and all of his crap's probably all over, just like everybody else who has a bathroom that they don't want anyone else to see. All your junk all over the place.
But not only that, but as a guy, you see things that you don't want to see. You want the woman to see before getting prepared. So therefore, you can't put away anything. It's all laid out over there. And she went over there. She goes, oh, I see you like nature. Yeah, I find it rather relaxing. I do too. And the conversation between them both, you could definitely feel the chemistry.
Yeah, there was definite chemistry. I was wondering, I wonder if they've ever made a movie together before. And I actually was going to look that up, and then I never did. But it wouldn't surprise me because they all are like, Hollywood icons. But It is kind of weird that she just caught, and then the one time she came over, it was 1 a.m.
Yep. It was
Like,
like 1 in the
dude,
morning.
I would have called 911 if someone's ringing my bell at 1 a.m.
Well, remember, she was over there. This is when John gets picked up from the IRS guy, and the stupid douchebag doesn't even give him right back.
No. Yeah, that's right. I kind of forgot about that. That
And he
was
goes in a
yeah.
taxi, and then that's whenever he winds up finding her cooking in his house.
Szechuan. And he's like,
That's one.
what did he say? Nothing too spicy or it'll keep me up all night or something. I forget
Yeah,
how he
that's
put
what she
it.
said. That nothing too spicy will keep me up all night. She goes, oh, good. I'm making
Yeah.
Szechuan.
And then she puts like how many hot peppers in there? 4 or 5 of them. I'm like,
Right.
oh. And then so I kind of expected him to be like, oh, this is so good. But he didn't really have, that when they were sort of talking and eating, he didn't seem all that bothered by it. But was that the same scene where she like stayed overnight?
Yeah. No. Because she didn't stay overnight on that time.
Okay.
It was when they went on a snowmobile.
Also, wear your helmets. Always wear your helmets. That drove me nuts, dude. We're snowmobilers. It drove me nuts. You wouldn't be comfortable out in that cold without a helmet on anyway. But also, they trespassed all over the place. You can't take a snowmobile wherever you want. Just an FYI. It did drive me, John. That drove me nuts.
Well, especially at 1 o'clock in the morning on your snowmobile.
Yeah, through your neighborhood. That's not legal. You can't just take your snowmobile wherever you want, even if you're in Minnesota. I can tell you and you also don't want to go on people's property, especially out in fields, because at least I live out in the country and we have a farm field right adjacent to our property. They have winter wheat. They plow, they keep it going year round, so you can destroy somebody's crops. FYI. Right. That drove me crazy. I don't know why. Normally stuff doesn't bother me that much, but that really did. Wear your helmets.
It's like we can only suspend disbelief at so much.
Right.
But where's your helmet at? You're going into this 1 o'clock in the morning with your snowmobile, waking people up.
Tearing
it up. Small town. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure people probably do take their snowmobiles out, and there probably are rules about being able to do it, but for the most part, that's not really legal.
Not in a residential area.
Not to my knowledge, for sure.
Mine either.
Yeah.
And then you also have this other scene too. This is before everything, but remember when Walter Matthau goes over there, Max goes over there, and he beats John at the punch on that part.
Right. And because John had been, both of them, I think, were getting ready, but John kind of like was getting dressed up, and because they were both going to go over there and because this is after Chuck was there. So now they're both like, I'm going to take my chance with her, and Max beat him.
Yep.
That night.
Exactly. Well, I like how they set that up. And then it goes to show you that Max and her don't have anything in common.
No. And she made it pretty clear she wasn't really that interested in Max anyway. I mean, she's like, I think we're going to be great friends. And he's like, oh, dang it. That is not what I mean, he didn't say that, but that's not what he wanted to hear.
Facial expression.
Yeah.
Friends.
Yay. Good times.
So, friend, do you want to go out to eat? No, I have other things I have to do.
Right.
So I'm like, yep, she's going after John.
She just friend zoned him.
And then, of course, you wind up seeing this whole entire confrontation of the fact of, this reminds me of a time when you stole my wife, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then you find out there's a lot more history there that meets the eye, like you mentioned. And then you also have this other thing that winds up happening, too, once Chuck dies.
Yes.
Then they realize how life is actually short.
Right. Because Chuck was a really good friend to them too. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they said it exact for sure, but we find out for sure that John and Max are childhood friends because there's a picture on the mantle and Ariel sees it and says, oh, who's that? And he's like, oh, that's us together. But I think Chuck's probably been a part of that mix as well, even though they don't really say they're lifelong friends. I got the feeling that Chuck had been there for a very, very long time as well. And he was elderly.
Right, because you get that whenever Max comes home and he sees Chuck's hat, the one that was from the bait shop that he bought,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can see that he misses him.
Yeah.
So he's been there for a long time, especially in a small town. So
Right.
I wouldn't doubt it.
No, yeah. And so I guess we didn't say that he owns like a little coffee shop with a bait shop, coffee bait shop, I guess you would call it,
Right,
like with a little coffee counter. And so I think that John and Max spend a lot of time in there just based on the fact that they did in the movie. So when Chuck died, it was really sad because they're like, "Oh, he forgot to open the front door," like that John said that and he was kind of like, he's getting forgetful in his old age. He didn't say that, but that was kind of the way he implied it. And then he walked around, and then you saw the police car out front with putting a sign up saying closed. And they didn't say it outright at that point, but you knew that that's probably what happened. And then in the next scene, um, we find out, what happened.
right.
And then they talk about how he died because that's what they do.
It's like who had the better death? Who went
Right.
out better?
Who went out more peacefully?
Right. And then you also have the other part where this is the part that I like when you wind up seeing Max fishing with we're not going to beat for beat, but when he's fishing with Ariel and he wants to take a picture of the fish and you think that they're doing something nasty on the outside.
Yeah, because everybody hears her and they're like, ah, 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 ah. And they're catching the fish and they see that it's like this huge fish. And so everybody thinks they're in there like doing something sexual. And turns out they're just catching a fish. She wants to put it back. He wants to at least get a picture and he tries to get a picture and she has it back in the water. And he's like, no. That was really funny scene.
Yes, I definitely liked it. I thought everything set up really well. And then you have this one little scare that winds up happening where John winds up going into the hospital.
Yes. And I think that was Christmas Eve, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. So when we first start the movie, it's just before Thanksgiving, and then it moves into Christmas because
Christmas Eve.
it doesn't like it's not so linear that you can tell exactly what the timeline is because it's winter throughout the whole thing. So you would just know because they say it's Christmas Eve. So you don't know that really a month has gone by during this time.
Right. They don't give you no time frame of how long it's been since they last saw each other, their family. And then also too, well, even whenever gets out of the hospital, they don't give you a time frame when he gets out of the hospital.
No, but the only cue that you really have is spoiler alert, we have a wedding. When you're at the wedding, the snow is like you can see grass. So I'm assuming at this point it could be a year later or it could be just that following. I was thinking that would look like to me what it might look like around in Wisconsin around end of March. When the snow is starting to melt, but there's still big kind of patches of it.
Right. And that's what I got as well. That's how I would imagine Wisconsin to be.
Yeah. And they set it up so you actually don't know if it's a funeral or if and you don't know what it is. At first I thought maybe it was because the way they have it, so they have the church bells, they're outside, they come, and I think it's Melanie and Jacob, so the daughter and the son are outside the church and they're walking in, they're both wearing nice clothes and a black coat. So I thought at first I thought it might be Chuck's funeral because Burgess Meredith, grandpa, comes out and he's like, get in here, you two. And I'm like, well, it can't be John's funeral because he wouldn't have been that kind of cheery about it. And then you go in and find out it's a wedding.
Right, because we have Max's son talking outside to John's daughter.
Right.
They do look kind of sad.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see John's father goes, hey, you two, get your asses inside.
Yes. Right.
So I'm like...
And also then I think she says something about the divorce being finalized. That's why I was like, oh, is this a year later, 2 years later? You know what I mean? You don't know how much later it is.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a couple of months later because it shows that Max paid all the debts off that John owed.
Yeah, that's right. Because so I guess we skipped through that. Jacob, the son, becomes mayor, so he wins the election. Although that's sort of strange too, because normally elections are before Thanksgiving. Oh, it's okay. They can do whatever they want. It's their movie. So he wins, he becomes mayor, and he's the one that he gets a cease and desist so that John, while he's in the hospital, doesn't lose his property. And then he ends up getting all the fines removed. So John only has to pay a small amount, which Max actually pays off as his wedding gift to John.
Exactly. And then after that, they get inside the limo. And then he winds up getting Go on ahead. I'll let you do this one.
Oh, okay. So they're in the limo and they're driving away, and he's like, "What's that smell? Do you smell something?" And then they find a fish, because that's kind of the running joke in the movie is they put fish. Max puts a fish in John. Is it Max who put a fish in John's car? And then they put a fish in the IRS guy's car, and then Max put a fish in the wedding limo. And so then they're driving off and he drops the fish. But it was so funny because later on, after the movie's over and they're showing like bloopers and stuff, they have Max looking at the fish being dropped, and then John comes up next to him and he's like, so really it's Walter Matthau looking, and he's supposed to be looking for John and Ariel in the limo, and Jack Lemmon comes up next to him and he's like, "Who left?" And it was just really cute because they broke character and he just was messing around. It was so cute. I love that. I love that, the blooper scenes, but especially when Burgess Meredith, I mean, he was just dirty. He's like, he's gonna give him. He's gonna. How did he? What were some of the things?
Oh, he's gonna slide in the one-eyed chicken or turkey or something like that, or the snake.
He's gonna put the hot dog in the bun. I mean, he was filthy. I was laughing. I was on my treadmill and I was laughing so loud. I was laughing so hard. I was afraid I was gonna fall because it was so funny. I mean, he just said all of the ones you could possibly imagine. Just filthy. It was hilarious.
My favorite other blooper, this is off of Grumpy Old Man, was whenever he's talking to the little old lady in the supermarket that he's trying to pick up on. He goes, "Want to come home and I'll show you my beefy salami." But yeah, I really enjoy this film. This film is heartwarming. Not only is it heartwarming, it is one of those films that you can just put on either in Thanksgiving or Christmas, because it's in between that borderline. So I'm like, you can either celebrate this at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and you still get that Christmassy kind of feel to it. It's just that you don't have the decorations or anything, but you still have that whole entire aspect of the fact that you have friendship, you have a lesson learned inside the film, and you have some laughs.
Right, and you have fish in cars, which you can't ever.
No.
There's nothing more fun than finding a fish in your car.
Oh, and then you also have, and then of course you also have snowmobiles with no safety.
Wear your helmet. That drove me crazy, John.
I know. This ad has been brought to you by the Wisconsin Motor Vehicle Department.
Wear your helmets.
All right. So, Beth, where can everybody reach you at?
Where can everybody reach me? We are the Made for TV Movie Club podcast. We're on Twitter at TV Movie Club Pod 1. We're on Instagram at made_for_TV_movie_club. You can just search us on Facebook. Pardon me. I said Facebook. I didn't say the F word. Made for TV Movie Club podcast. I've stopped dropping F-bombs on the podcast.
So proud of you.
Thank you so much. It was hard. You can hashtag us at MFTVMC podcast, and we're on all of the apps: Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Anchor, and Amazon Alexa is like our number 2 people listen to us on.
Awesome. Congratulations to you guys. You guys are killing it. I do.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I do appreciate you talking about Grumpy Old Men with me. We'll do another Matthau film and Jack Lemmon film soon. So always until next time, guys. I would do more, but my voice is saying no. So have a great and safe night.